Hey everyone, fascinating topic today with a wonderful organization, really on a mission, nonprofit, doing amazing work for good. Computers for People. Dylan, how are you?
I'm doing great, Evan. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for being here. It was good to meet you the other week, and I was really fascinated by your origin story and vision. Maybe tell us about the creation of this initiatives, Computers for People, and what's the big idea?
Definitely. So I started 5.5 years ago when I was a sophomore in high school in New York City. I originally used to go to different thrift stores around Brooklyn, New York. Me and my friends would go, bring our skateboards. We would buy and negotiate for old computers and technology, which we knew we could resell online. We would stack them up on our skateboards, take them back on the subway, where we would fix them up and then eventually sell them online and make a good profit. But through this business, I realized that wow, there's such a big opportunity for people that don't know how to get rid of their old e-waste. Like it would end up at these thrift stores, it would end up in the landfill. Tons of companies didn't know how to get rid of it. I later learned that like 88% of all e-waste ends up in the landfill here in the United States, which just shocked me. Right? Like think of just look at the desk, your desk, and see like all this technology. Just think about it getting burned in a landfill. It's terrible. So from there, I was like, okay, I can collect all this e-waste, refurbish it, and what would be next? Should I sell it? Should I create a business out of this? And I was talking to my stepmom who worked at a nonprofit, and she told me how dozens of her clients don't have access to computers, but really needed it for jobs, education, healthcare, federal benefits, all these things that you couldn't access if you didn't have access to technology. And then that was the light bulb moment. I was like, okay, I got to collect these computers, refurbish them, and donate them to people in need. And that's where it all started. And the next day I bought the domain names for Computers for People and filed the 501c3 status and learned how to do that through YouTube and the IRS website. And the rest is history. Now we're 6 years later.
6 years later, so you're still in college, I think, still on a mission up here in Massachusetts. And, talk about amazing vision and incredible concept, but challenges that you faced in not just collecting, but refurbishing the tech and that whole sort of supply chain. How did you overcome a lot of those challenges and to kind of scale up to where you are today?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of challenges along the way, especially, I mean, starting at 15, I couldn't even sign the papers to open a bank account. So those were the first challenges. I needed to, luckily my dad was very supportive of this endeavor and helped me sign the documents I needed to open a bank account for the first time. But then from there, I learned a lot about actually refurbishing and collecting the computers, right? You need large vehicles to pick up hundreds of devices at a time. You need to know how to get certificates of insurance to enter some of these large office buildings that require vendors to have insurance, which is something that
Mm.
I didn't know about and I had to figure out. And now we have pretty good insurance so that we can do that all over the city and around, the Northeast. uh, from there, data security is one of like the biggest questions. The most frequently asked question I get is like, is my data going to be secured if I donate my computers to you? How are you wiping it? And we've
Mm.
become professionals in this space in terms of using a NIST 888 purge wipe on all the data to make sure it does a three-pass wipe, no data is recoverable, and we get a certificate of insurance, data erasure to give to the donors. So those were a lot of the challenges that we faced along the way, but we figured it out and we've figured out how to automate it a lot so that we can do this at scale. Like right now, we're just in the Northeast, but my vision is to be a global organization. So we need to automate our systems and our technology in order to get there.
Oh, fantastic road you're on. And how do you ensure the quality of the devices that you distribute? I have lots of semi-broken computers, which I need to talk to you about after the show, but what's your process there?
Yeah, it's a good question. A lot of people ask like, well, do you only accept computers that are a certain like age or certain
Mm.
specs. And the answer is we collect all e-waste, all the way up to apply. Like we don't accept appliances. If you have a toaster oven, that's a that's something that you got to figure out on your own. Unfortunately, I can give you some resources, but we can't recycle those. But everything else we take and we sort it into donatable and non-donatable. And all the non-donatable equipment, we partner with IT asset disposal companies and recyclers to properly break apart those parts into like the metals, the plastics, everything else, which gets turned and recycled into new products in the future. Everything else that is donatable, that we deem donatable, we have like a certain spec that we deem as like, okay, this can support Windows 10 and someone can use this for 3 years going forward. And that is always changing. I mean, Evan, you know that technology is always evolving uh, and moving forward. So our specs are always going up every year on what we deem as donatable. And those devices get refurbished and then donated to people in need.
Wonderful. And walk us through the process of sort of identifying individuals or organizations or what have you in need of computers. How do you ensure the tech gets into the hands of, individuals who need it most?
Definitely. I think that this is one of the processes that we're best at is really identifying those people in need that need computers, right? I mean, a lot of people ask like, how does can anyone just apply and get a free device? Um,
Mm,
yes and no. You need to meet certain income requirements and be have a nominator from a nonprofit. So we partner with over 300 nonprofit organizations across New Jersey, New York City, and Massachusetts that nominate individuals in need, whether they're students, formerly incarcerated, senior citizens,
mm.
refugees, veterans. Uh, they apply for a computer, get nominated by the organization as in need of this device, and then once it's approved, then we drop off the computer to the nonprofit.
Fantastic. So you were pretty busy during the pandemic where, there was a lot more uh, laptops and PCs needed to work from home, study from home. To talk about that experience, that must have been quite a whirlwind.
Yeah, it's definitely. I'd say it's a boom. It was a boom in publicity around the subject. Not as much. Like the publicity went higher than the boom in need. I would say the need was always there.
Mm,
Like we started before the pandemic, and still millions of people across the United States didn't have access to technology, but still needed it. Like, how would you go on Google Classroom and complete homework if you didn't have access to computers? Google Classroom was around way before the pandemic. And the pandemic just showed, hey, everyone actually does need a computer, and this is a pressing issue that we need to solve now. And the pandemic didn't even solve the problem. It just shed a lot of light on it, which, you know, good and bad. Um, but it definitely showed that this is a real problem, and it's great because I think the government and the private sector put a lot more money and attention towards these sort of initiatives. Um, you know, more companies are donating their computers, more companies are donating their time and their funds to allow us to do this work and close the divide. Uh, but yeah, it was really an interesting time that like we started a year before the pandemic and then that happened. And then it was just
mm.
suddenly, you know, oh, that makes sense. That makes total sense.
Well done. And so, how does it work when you partner with businesses or schools or other nonprofits, local governments to source computers? I mean, what can folks listening and do to support your mission?
Definitely. I think one of the first steps is if you work in any type of company, like we've worked with government, we've worked with nonprofits, companies, all sizes, from one person to literally like hundreds of thousands of people, some of these companies. And the first step is just to ask your IT director, hey, what do we do with my old laptop that I get from work? Uh, and most
Mm.
often they will tell you two things. Either we have someone that we give it to, or I have no idea. And that's when you say, hey, I know of this nonprofit Computers for People. maybe we can consider donating our old tech to Computers for People. They pick up for free. You get a tax write-off for the donation, and the computers go to people in need. So it's all benefits, all value for the company, all value for us, and all value for the people that we're supporting through our work. So yeah, please just reach out to us through computersforpeople.org. It's that simple.
Fantastic. So you must have come across all kinds of interesting people helping them with, sourcing computers. You must have lots of stories and anecdotes where you've really made a difference, right down to the individual level. Care to share any stories that really made an impact, without picking one over the other?
Yeah, I mean, there's been so many amazing stories, and as the organization has grown, I've like there's just more and more stories coming in. But I remember like back to the beginning when like I started it, I got to deliver every computer to every person. Um, and there's one story that really hits me that I like always will remember. Um, we had a desktop computer. A student said he was into gaming, and we decked out like a gaming computer for him. We don't do this usually, but he said he was really into gaming, and the family was really struggling with many different issues that I'm not going to go into. But we got this computer ready. We delivered it to the kid. He was jumping up and down, so excited. And and then we were going to leave. We took a photo of the donation, and we were going to leave. And the mom came up to us, knocked on the window. We rolled down the window, and she was crying. And she said, "Hey, I never would have been able to provide this for my son, so thank you."
Mm,
And that, like, I will always remember that moment. Of how much just one device can make a difference in not just like one student's life, but a family, a household. And I
mm,
hope like that student's going to go on to do great things in the world. Uh, and there's just that times 3,000. We've donated 3,000 computers so far. So yeah,
wonderful. And tech is evolving so rapidly. It's not just about computers anymore. I mean, there's value in tablets and smartphones and increasingly wearables for health and wellness, all kinds of devices. How do you think about staying on top of all of this tech that's coming out?
yeah, it's a interesting time to be in this industry, be in like the recycling of computers because like we're almost 3 years behind. I would say what the world is buying, because most people like refresh their computers every 3 years. So we get to see like what it looked like 3 years ago. Um, but we need to stay on top of it because in 10 years, desktops might not be a thing at all. I don't know what laptops
Mm,
are going to look like. You're right. It might be all wearables and phones, and we're going to have to adapt and make sure that people have access to that technology. We're already focusing on the skills component of computers a lot. We teach 2 in-person digital skills classes per day. So
mm,
not just like, hey, here's a computer, figure out how to use it. We go and actually show them how to use it, and teach them like how to turn on the computer to, using Google Sheets, creating an email, eventually making a resume, all those great skills that you need. And we're working on curriculum right now to teach people how to use AI as well and how to apply that to their life in order, if you don't know how to if you don't know how to make a resume, AI can definitely help you in creating that resume. And I think that'll be helpful to a lot of the people that we're serving to make sure that AI does not make the digital divide larger than it already is.
a great point. And so, what's next for you this year, the rest of the year, next year? What are your plans in terms of expansion, and how can people get involved in the mission as a volunteer?
Definitely. Yeah, we're playing some big things. One thing totally, it's not totally off topic, but somewhat off topic, is we're having an event in October, October 5th, called the Pepper Eating Competition. It's Hoboken Pepper Fest. So it's a 20-round competition where we have about 30 contestants that eat spicy peppers one after another. And they get hotter each round. So it starts at the jalapeno pepper all the way to the Carolina Reaper. and you can't drink any water or milk. So you have to eat the whole pepper. And as the rounds go by, people drop out because they start crying. They're not feeling great. So, uh, and you don't have to compete in the competition. You can also come and watch the competition, and it's all a fundraiser for Computers for People. So if you're interested in that event, it's computersforpeople.org/pepper, and it's going to be very, very interesting. This is the second annual Pepper Fest. Last year they made it to round 13, and then the finalist made it out alive with a $500 prize. So it's gonna
So fun, kind of like the ice challenge, icebox challenge. You got to get attention these days, and sounds like a few viral moments there waiting to happen. Well, wonderful work. Congratulations on the amazing progress and the good work you're doing. You're in the Boston area, and anyone from New England can donate through the tri-state area. Is that correct?
definitely, yeah. So we just opened an office here in Waltham, Massachusetts. But anyone in the New Jersey, New York City, or Massachusetts area can submit to donate, and we'll pick up.
Fantastic. Well, everyone get on that. I will be donating myself and look forward to helping out as much as I can. Thanks so much, Dylan. Great work.
Thanks, Evan.
Take care, everyone.